Would you say you were outside before Tracy came to the door?
3 minutes, maybe 4.
So you were banging on the door for 3 or 4 minutes before Tracy eventually answered it?
Yeah.
Could you hear anything coming from inside the house at that time?
No.
No music?
No, we couldn't hear anything.
It was quiet when you got there?
It was, yeah.
When your sister eventually opened the door, what was she doing?
She was on the phone to the police. She was in a right state. Then she dropped the phone, and that's when I went inside.
So you were the first one into the house?
Yeah.
What did you see?
He was lying on the floor, he got a knife in his hand. The room was a mess, like there'd been a struggle. And that's when my dad came in, and I went upstairs to get Amy.
So, Amy was upstairs?
Yes.
Out of the way?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow.
Mr. Barlow, I'd like to ask you about a fight you had with Mr. Stubbs 4 days before his death.
Oh, this'll do it. This'll show on what kind of a man he was.
Can you tell us what happened?
Well, it wasn't really a fight. He took me by surprise. He started swinging punches at me. He knocked me out before I had a chance to defend myself. The man was a psycho.
I believe a man who'd sustained 2 such heavy blows to the head would be unlikely to retain a grip on his knife.
He'd have dropped it.
As he fell unconscious to the floor, yes.
Apart from the 2 blows to his head, did the victim sustain any other injuries that would be consistent with him having been involved in a physical struggle on the night of his death?
No. There were bruises that I judged to be at least a day old, but nothing that could have been sustained on the night of his death.
Did you take a look at the defendant's injuries?
Yes.
What can you tell us about them?
She had wounds on the palm and the back of her left hand, consistent with being caused by a knife or a sharp instrument.
Deep wounds?
Not really, no, but substantial enough to cause a fair amount of bleeding.
Did she have any other injuries? Bruises? Scratches? Anything which would suggest she'd been in a violent struggle?
No.
Stabbing isn't enough, is that what she's saying?
The cut on the palm of Miss Barlow's hand, would it have made it difficult for her to lift things?
It would have caused her some discomfort, yes.
Could she have lifted the murder weapon, for example?
She could have, but not without leaving traces of her blood on it.
My lady, we will hear from the next witness that there were no traces of the accused's blood found anywhere on the murder weapon, which suggests that her hand was cut after the weapon had been wielded.
So she must have used her other hand. It's not rocket science.
She used her other hand.
Thank you.
He'd better start earning his corn now.
You'd have us believe that a man who'd sustained 2 such heavy blows to the head would not retain a grip on his knife.
The likelihood is he'd have dropped it as he lost consciousness.
It is a medical impossibility that he could have kept hold of it as he fell. Is that what you're saying?
It's unlikely.
But not impossible.
No.
Tracy Barlow had no other injuries except the cuts to her left hand, correct?
Yes.
Her right hand was not injured in any way.
No.
So if she'd raised the ornament with her right hand and her right hand only, would there be any traces of her blood on it?
Obviously not, but it's very heavy.
I know it's very heavy. But if she believed her life was in danger, if a man was coming at her with a knife, could she find enough reserves of strength to lift it with one hand?
Perhaps.
How did it go?
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, but her barrister was good though, eh?
It should be.
You'd know you were getting your money's worth if you'd been there.
There was all that stuff, you know, about angles of impact and what position he was in when she hit him, all that.
Can you believe they tried to make him out to be some kind of sitting duck?
They had this so-called expert. Said he must have been sat down at the time.
Yeah, because of the blood splatter on the armchair.
Yeah, well, I've had about enough of this for one day, so I'm going to go and get Amy.
To be honest, when this expert got going, I was a bit worried at first.
But then our man made mincemeat of him.
Oh, what? He tore him to shreds.
Isn't it possible, he said, isn't it possible she hit him while he was stood up and then he fell back into the chair?
In the end, he had to admit it was.
She hasn't got the stomach for all the gory details.